Remember back to our checkmate lesson? If you haven't watched that lesson, be sure to watch it first because today we're talking about the Rook Roller, which is a type of checkmate. It's quite fun and also it's also called the ladder mate. Why is it called the ladder mate? Well, quite simply, the ladder mate, climbing a ladder. Imagine climbing a ladder, right? If you're climbing a ladder, going up, you put one hand on the bottom bar, and then you have another hand that goes to the top bar, right? Until you reach the top. So the rook and roll is quite similar, but in chess, we don't have that. And we're supposed to roll our rooks. These rooks are on a roll. So when our rooks are on a roll, we're supposed to roll them. And let's take a look at this rook on d1. You can see that the rook on d1, it controls all the squares on the d file. And the king can never escape. It's like a box. He can never escape out of this box. So when he cannot escape out of that box, we can give a check. So our purpose is to trap the king to the edge of the chessboard. So how do we start the rook roller checkmate? Well, quite simply, we have to get them to the edge of the board, right? We have to get them to the H file. When we get them to the H file, we first give a check. Can you find a check that forces the king onto the F file? Did you find it? I'll give you a moment there. So we're supposed to use the rook on C2. So how do we give a check? Well, we could always play rook to C6, but the king can just run away. And the position is still winning for white, but we just made no progress. Instead, the correct move was to play rook to E2. So when you have rook to E2, can the king escape? Can he go to the D file? No, he can't. That rook's controlling it. He cannot go to the E file because you cannot go into check. So he's got the square F5, F6, and F7. So if he goes to F7, let's take a look at these lines. If he goes to F7, that is actually a mistake. He's too far away. Now we use the other rook. So it's like switching back and forth, switching hands. So when we switch hands, we're supposed to use the D rook. When we use the D rook, how do we give a check? So the king is currently on F7, and we're supposed to use this D rook. So when we use the D rook, we can give the check. How do we give a check? Rook at D7, king can run to F6. But we don't want him to run. We want to checkmate him, right? We want to climb to the top of that ladder. So the best move was actually rook F1. Now, the only square he can move to, or the squares they can move to, are G6, G7, and G8. So let's say the king goes to G8. So we just used our left hand. We're going to use our right hand now, and that's why the rook roller mate is one of my favorite mates. Although I don't usually use it, because sometimes, it's mostly I use the king and queen mate, although this mate is still very common. So the king is on the square G8. So when we're on the square G8, we use our left hand, and we give a check. Rook G2. And now we have finally made progress. And now the king has finally got to walk to either squares H8, H or H7. So he can pick either of the squares. If he goes to the square H7, how do we checkmate him? Well, this is a key concept of the rook roller mate. The rook roller mate, when you have this rook roller mate position, we use our right hand, right? So we just used the left hand, now we go to the right hand. So how do we checkmate the king in one move? Well, the very simple solution here is rook h1, and it's made. You can see even the computer says it's made because you can see the king Is this a checkmate? Remember back to our checkmate lessons, you can see that a piece is aiming at the king. Number one, that's a check. Good. Can the king move? Cannot move to the square g6 because that rook is defending the g file. Cannot move to either of the squares around him. Therefore, it is a checkmate. The rook roller mate is a very important mate, and it's quite a fun one. Be sure to practice, because chess is always practice, and this mate may occur sometime in your chess career, and it's very, very important.